Hi everybody, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, we had a really scary incident that happened with the Norwegian Epic. I'll tell you about that, where a passenger ended up falling in the water when the cruise ship broke away from its moorings and the gangway fell into the water. And yeah, not a fun situation. We have pretty much our first tropical storm of the hurricane season coming up, and it's affecting some cruises on the west coast. We also have Bahamas coming out and launching, well, a new tax. They want more money from the cruise lines, but there's a catch because the cruise lines have to agree to it. And then finally, there has been salmonella reports on various cruise ships over the past month. Not so much where there's 20 on this one or 50 on, it's like one here, one there. But we found out where it all came from. So our first story is the NCL Epic, and I was wondering when this would happen. How many times have we heard stories of the cruise ships breaking away from its moorings, but luckily there was nothing going on at the time, nothing had happened. Well, this is one of those incidents where it broke away at the wrong time with the wrong person. A woman and her husband were walking across the gangway when the moorings broke loose, shifted the gangplank, and down they went. She fell into the water, and her husband jumped in after her to rescue her. Now, this all happened around 1 o'clock in Sicily, and the ship floated away and had to be restarted and kept, distance. Now, there were heavy wind warnings, moderate wind warnings and moderate gust warnings for that port that day, but the cruise ship docked anyway. Then they decided, we're going to stay out a little bit and not dock until the wind subsides. Now, crew members and rescue teams nearby got the woman and the husband out of the water. It was determined that she was treated right away, but they sent her to the hospital for minor injuries. Not sure what those minor injuries were, or even if they got back on the ship yet. That part hasn't been said. But passengers waiting to get on and off now could not. The ship was now away from the dock and waiting for a time when they can, finally dock when the wind subsides. Well, it was 1 o'clock when this happened, and the ship did not redock until around 7:30 p.m., which means some people could have been waiting about 6.5 hours to get back on the ship. But obviously, you want to get back on the ship and not fall in the gangway. So they had to make sure that it was going to be safe for everybody around. No other incidences as far as anybody is happening, and of course there will be an investigation launched into why this happened. Next, let's talk about the salmonella that's been reported on Royal Caribbean. It's been reported on Carnival. It's been reported on Norwegian, but just spotty here and there, right? Just one here, one there, people. Well, apparently it's from a cucumber, and it's produced by a particular farm that had happened to send all these cucumbers to over 6 different cruise lines, plus hospitals, plus schools, plus grocery stores. And it was all recalled, obviously, once they discovered where the salmonella was coming from. But in case you were wondering if it was the cruise lines not, cleaning properly or anything like that, no. It was actually a food producer that had given it out to not just the cruise lines, but various other agencies as well. So at least it wasn't caused by the cruise lines themselves. That's good news. Next, let's talk about Tropical Storm Alvin. Alvin is technically the first storm of the hurricane season, and it is hitting the, down near Acapulco. And it is affecting some cruise destinations in that area as they have to avoid the storm and make routes around it. Luckily, right now, there's not a whole lot of cruise traffic in that area, but it is worth mentioning it as it is technically the very first of what is proposed to be this year, according to the Hurricane Watch Center, a very active summer for weather in the Caribbean and around the coast of Florida and down up in the Galveston areas, etc. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that all season long. I'll keep you informed of any potential, threats to your upcoming homes and cruise destinations as they pop up, and so you can prepare what you want to do for your cruise and if you need to do anything, including evacuate. But hopefully, if you live in those areas, you're more aware of what's coming than I am here up in Canada, and get out safely if you need to get out. So many people try and ride them out, and I hear a lot of bad stories of some things that have happened when you try and ride out a really bad hurricane. So let's hope we don't have any of those stories neither. And now, finally, let's talk about the Bahamas. The Bahamas has been noticing something that the cruise lines have been doing. We've been noticing it as well. They've been building bigger and bigger private islands. They're expanding their private islands. MSC is expanding their island. Perfect Day keeps expanding their areas. We have Norwegian expanding their areas. And the Bahamas says, well, the footprint of the cruise lines is growing and growing and growing, but the revenue from the cruise lines is not. So they want to tax those private islands now and get their share of the money from it. There's a catch though. Because they've signed long-term contracts for these islands, and even like in Nassau, right? They have a contract there for the new construction going on. That's a long-term deal. They can't just suddenly impose a tax. It breaks the legal contract. And they could be sued way more than the tax would ever be. So they have to, negotiate with the cruise lines. Now, the cruise lines themselves have come out and said, you know what? We're willing to fairly negotiate because of the increased footprint and everything. Let's sit down and talk about it. Now, what does that mean for us? Well, that's probably going to mean more cost increases, or at least an increase in port fees, right? Going there, not necessarily on our overall cruise, but the increase in the port fees and taxes of each destination, if there's even in the private islands, right? So yeah, again, something coming down the road. That's another tax increase that's going to hit the prices of cruising again. I had just started to see some of the prices of cruising starting to level off slightly, but then you have all the other destinations like we have, I believe it was Skagway trying to increase taxes in Alaska now. We now have the Bahamas trying to do it. We now have Mexico imposing that 5% tax. These are going to affect our cruise prices absolutely going forward as well. So yeah, is there a sign that things are going to slow down? There kind of was, but it seems to be slipping away from us. Let's hope not by too much. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about. It's always kind of, you don't even think about it, right? When you're getting off a cruise ship, that you're just walking down the gangway and getting off, you don't even think about maybe the mooring breaking and then falling into the ocean. And luckily the wind didn't push the ship towards the dock where the person had fallen in the water. Just a scary situation. Well, I hope you appreciate this update. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world? Hit that subscribe button. Until next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.
Oh. Look at me, Don. He loves you. Oh, I want him to do that with me. Get all close.